the importance of our court reports because we're not able to get in front of the judge as often as we used to in the pre-COVID days. We want to make sure our court reports stand tall and tell the judge everything that is happening. So in our court reports, we want to make sure that we're including new information. That is, new information that has happened since the last court report. So if there are things that have happened previously or whatever, the judge has access to all of those reports. They can review them. When the judge is reviewing your report on the day of, it may or may not be the first time he has seen that. He may have, because you file it 5 days in advance, the judges have access to that. If they review their docket and they want to get a little history, they can certainly review that before everyone comes together on the day of court. So you don't have to send a lot of reminders or a little history or anything like that. He wants to know the new stuff that has happened since the last time you've seen them. So with that in mind, when we go down to the service to the case, that's why we list the dates from the previous hearing to this current hearing as the services that were provided. So when we list our dates, we need to make sure we're listing in the month, date, and year form, because we're getting close to the end of the year and we don't want anybody to be confused. Wow, did that happen in 2020 or did that happen in 2021? Since cases last more than a year, let's just not have any doubt in our mind when those things have happened. So make sure you use the date, the month, the date, and the year. We're asking for your contacts for the children, your contacts with the placement, the attorney ad litem, and CPS every month. So let's make sure that we don't leave anybody out. We're asking for educational advocacy quarterly. We're asking for health advocacy quarterly, and contact with the family of origin quarterly. This could be parents, or if the child came from adoptive parents or relative placements or wherever the child was living before they came into CPS care. It's very important we get to know about that situation from which the child has come from. His family or her family, their family was very important to them. And we want to be, take that into consideration and be respectful. So we want to know what that situation was that they were living in. It helps us understand where the child came from and where the child may be returning to. So we need to get to know what is happening with that family. We're also listing, since most of our cases are now falling under the collaborative family engagement, we want to make sure that we list contacts that we made or family meetings that we've had during that this service time between the last court hearing and this court hearing. All of our judges have been trained either by attending little workshops that we have hosted or with other judges across the state, and feel that family engagement is very important. The Texas Family Code is very pro-family, and they want to preserve that family unit when it is safe and stable. And so family engagement is very important to the judges, and they want to hear what we're doing to preserve that. So when we're talking about the children in our court report, we could say something like, "Oh, saw the children, saw little Johnny, all is good, looks healthy, looks happy, I don't have any concerns." But is that really telling the judge anything? it's not really giving them any information. We are detailed. We want to include things like, how is little Johnny doing? How's he doing in that placement? Does he have any behavior concerns? Maybe he doesn't. Are there any developmental concerns, medical, emotional concerns, or if things are all going well? We want to make sure we let the judge know those things. If we are going to provide information, we need to please give information that we got from someone else. We need to give that person credit. According to the foster mom, according to the placement, this is what is going on, so that the judge can trust in the information that you're bringing them. So we want to make sure we let him know where it's coming from. So we are also focusing on the educational advocacy and medical advocacy for each child. And so when we're thinking about medical, we're thinking about, how is his physical health doing? How are they, if they've gone to the dentist, are they getting any type of therapy for mental health issues or anything like that? So the judge needs to know all of these things. And so we need to let them know what's happening. If they just had a physical, do you think it would be better to say the medical is all up to date? Or can we say the last medical appointment was on August the 18th, 2020? That's more specific, and I think the judges really appreciate that too, that you've gone that extra mile, you've asked those questions, you are up to date. So we want to make sure we get that in there. Educationally, we know that children are learning something every day. So it's not just the information you get from the public school teacher, but if children are going to daycare, and you can talk to the daycare provider, if they're at home with a relative placement and you're checking on their developmental milestones, and are they rolling over? Are they sitting up by themselves? Are they learning to walk? Are they on target? Those are very important things to note in the court report about how the child is doing. After you've given that summary, if there are any concerns, list those underneath there, because it's from where you put the concerns is where you're going to get the recommendations at the end of the report. So, because we'll at the end tie it all together by making a recommendation about how you think these concerns should be addressed. When we're talking about the parents, we want to make sure, if at all possible, to get information directly from the parent, either before or after hearings. You might see them after a parent-child visit is over. You may see them at CPS during a family group conference. There's all kind of opportunities to see the family. And so we want to make sure we're getting that information directly from them. We want to know what their living situation is, how they're doing on their service plan, if they are actually implementing what they're learning on their service plan, not just treating it as a checklist. We want to see how we ourselves able to see parents implementing those changes needed for the child to be returned to their care. I think we all remember that the goal with CPS from the very beginning is family reunification, if at all possible. So we want to make sure that the parents have all the tools necessary for them to be successful. Now, we know we cannot make them use those tools, but we want to make sure they have access to them. So if it's something as simple as reminding the CPS worker that, that mom needs that counseling set up, can you help her? Or something like that, that friendly phone call, just to keep things rolling. Because we only have 365 days in this process. And if we sit and wait, then, you know, that makes it that much harder for these parents to make those changes. They have lived 20 years with these habits sometimes. They're lifelong habits that we're asking them to change in order for it to be safe for the children to be returned. So we want to make sure that they have every opportunity. Now, whether they use that opportunity or not, we don't have any control over that. But we want to make sure at the end of the day, at the end of this case, we have done everything we can to ensure that those parents had access to those tools for reunification to happen. So when you're listing those things from the parents and you have some concerns, make sure you list those there. If you don't have any concerns about what's happening with that parent, then maybe we should send the children home because you don't have any concerns. So let's be really mindful about how we are assessing those parent situations and what they may need to be successful. So I think I've been at CASA for about 9 years now, and I can only remember supervisors sharing with me on 2 different occasions where there were children that did not want to go home. For the most part, that's their family. They love their family and they want to go home if at all possible. So we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to. So the same thing goes with the dad. It's very important that we contact fathers in this situation. Sometimes our parents can be incarcerated and we think, oh, well, what can they do? But since some of our volunteers have taken on that, sending letters in the mail to incarcerated parents, we've gotten a whole host of information from them, including names and telephone numbers of family members that could be a resource, could help, might be somebody that will help that child or calm that child, let that child know that they haven't been forgotten. So we get a lot of information from incarcerated parents, but we want to make sure that we get information from about these fathers. There have been times in the past where fathers have gone overlooked. And so we want to make sure that they have every opportunity to participate. They're a very important person in the life of that child, and they deserve to know. We want to know more about them. So when we get down to the bottom and we're making our recommendations, we need to think about 2 things. We need to think about the concerns that we have listed previously in the report and what can be provided to address those concerns. And we also want to remember the Holly factors. So those things, if you don't have a list of the Holly factors handy, they are on our website under the Advocates Toolbox, and you can go there and get those. But when we're thinking about the Holly factors, we need to know, what does the child want? We want to know about the emotional and physical needs of that child today and in the future. We want to know about the emotional and physical danger to the child today and in the future. The parent's ability, the parental abilities of the individual seeking custody, the programs available to help these individuals to promote the best interest of the child, so they'll have the tools necessary to care for the child. The plans for the child by the individual who is seeking custody. So we know those parents, we're hoping they want to get their child back. What's their plan when the children get to come home? We want to make sure that they know about any programs that are available that's going to help them be successful. We should take into consideration the stability of the home or the proposed placement where they're going. Make sure that it is safe and stable. We want to take into consideration the acts or or the omissions of the parents, which may indicate that the existing parent-child relationship is not a proper one. So we want to make sure we're attending parent-child visits and things like that, and learning about that parent-child relationship. And if there are any excuses for those acts or omissions by the parents, what might they be? Why are they not doing what they need to do? So where do we get the information to put in our court reports? Well, we get them from our contacts that we make every month, those 5 monthly contacts. We get the information for our court reports from our visits with the child. Now they'll be a Zoom, or hopefully when the pandemic passes, they'll be face-to-face. We get them from phone calls with the child. There's a whole host of ways to get information about the child. We also contact their placement every month and get information from the placement about how things are going. We are visiting with the CPS caseworker. We're visiting with the ad litem. And we're putting everything that we need, all of our notes, in the Optima. So that, because each one of you has a busy schedule every day, you can't be expected to remember little things like your visit with the child last week. But if you write it down, if you put your notes into Optima, you'll have it there when it comes time to make that report in the upcoming months. You'll have everything you need. So when you're making your notes in Optima, there's no such thing as putting too much stuff in there. To make sure that you put detailed notes in there so that you don't have to expect yourself to remember those things. Write it down. When you go in to put contact notes, has a time limit on it. So a lot of our volunteers have been creating an email first to this that they may plan to send to the CPS caseworker, to the ad litem, and to their supervisor, and they can write all they want to on that email. And if they get interrupted, they can leave and they can come back and they can add more. And then when they get through and get ready to send that, they can copy and paste that and put it in their Optima note. And that way you don't have to worry about the program timing out and you having to start over. So that was a great hint that someone shared with me. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that child is safe and comfortable while they're in care. They get the best care possible by the best services and things, so that's the last thing the judge has to worry about, because he really is counting on the information that the CASA volunteer brings. Because we're not all able to go face to face and to testify and things like that. That's why it's so important to have a thorough court report to submit. So you might think, I wonder what kind of questions I might need to ask when I'm making my contact with the child. You might want to ask the child what their daily routine is like. What do you like to do? What do you do for fun? What do you find difficult? Is everything going well? What kind of struggles you might have? You might ask if they're older children. You might ask them directly, have they gone to the doctor? Did they have a dental visit? How do they think it went? If they're in school, you can ask them about their schooling. What are you learning in school? Do you have any friends? Do you eat in the cafeteria? Do you like that? Are you playing some type of sports? There's all kinds of things that you can ask children. So some of the things that you might ask the placement are the same things. How is that daily routine working for them? What kind of struggles do you see the children having? And of course, you can ask them about their medical and dental and any therapies that are happening Ask about report cards. Ask if they're having any difficulty at the daycare. Are we doing everything we can to meet the needs of the child? So, anytime that you discover in your investigation that the child has some needs that may not be met, of course, you'll want to contact the CPS caseworker and the ad litem and let them know what you discovered and talk about it with your CASA supervisor. They want to know too. Our CASA supervisors have years of experience and many, many cases in their tool chest to draw from experiences that they've had, and they are a wealth of information. So make sure that you let everyone know what is happening, what concerns you may have, or how proud you are of the accomplishments that the children are making. So the last thing I did want to mention about back to the recommendations is we want to make sure that our recommendations are specific. We want to make sure that they are measurable, that they are result focused, and they are moving towards successfully reuniting the family if at all possible. If it's not reuniting the family, it's moving towards permanency for the child, either with adoption or relative placement or something like that. And we want to make sure they are time bound. I think we all know that some of our children have been in CPS care for a long, long time, a lot longer than they need to be. And we want to do whatever we can, working together with our supervisors to move this process along so that the children can move to permanency as soon as it is safe and we're able to. So our court reports are a great tool. It's really wonderful that our supervisors send that out at least 3 to 4 weeks in advance to give you an opportunity to get your thoughts together, get that down on paper, and send it in. It gives you time to have conversations with your supervisors about, can I put this in? Can I not put this in? How do I put this information in? And they are there to help you craft a report that is accurate and it is saying what you need to say to the judge. So I think I've kind of covered everything I wanted to cover. If Regina, if you could unmute anybody to ask questions, that would be great.
I'm gonna stop recording.